Hi, I'm Kristian from Xentrix, and this is my interview with Metallivilzine.
What's it been like making 7 words and then having it out in November? And what's the reception been like?
Um, well, the reception for Seven Words has been really cool, actually. We're pleased because when we started writing it, it was we started writing in the pandemic in lockdown, so it kind of came from like a kind of a down period, not a great time for everyone really, because like we we hadn't really had Bury the Pain out that long. I think we only did a handful of gigs to support it, and then all of that was just finished. So we just decided, right? Well, I decided for everyone, we'll start to write a new album. Thought, well, there's no point sitting around. We can't do anything, but we can write music. So I just literally just started writing and massing riffs and sending to the guys using technology. We are a bit old, but we still try to use as much technology as we can. And it started to come together really quite easily. And then we when lockdown eased a bit, we were able to get together and start rehearsing. We started knocking the ideas together with the three of us, and then we got Jay involved because he lives in Bristol, so he lives like 3.5 hours away from the rest of us. So we kind of like use WhatsApp to just send him stuff, and he sends stuff back and things like that, and then we get together and hammer stuff out. And yeah, so we and then what would it be? The year before last, we went and recorded the drums at Andy's. He kindly helped us out again, and then we take all that away, and we do all the other stuff remotely. I record all the guitars and the bass, and we do the vocal. We did the vocals in Birmingham, and yeah, and then give it all to Andy. And we would have had it out a bit earlier, but unfortunately, we really wanted Andy to mix it, and it kind of fell at the time when he wasn't in Judas Priest, and then they changed their mind, and he was back in Judas Priest. So he's like, "Oh right, you're gonna have to wait till April before I can have a look at this." I was like, "Oh, okay." So we had to wait a little bit, but he's worth the wait, really. So, but yeah, everyone seems to really be digging it. The reception is a lot stronger than from Bury the Pain, and I think there's an element of like, this is like, oh, they've not just done one comeback album. Maybe they're actually, like they're built on that. This is like, oh, they're actually back for good a little bit. Like maybe they're gonna do like a third album. Who knows? But like it's got like a more of a sort of like concrete feel to it. Like this is our like a back stamp. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm really pleased with it.
What was the Headbangers Ball tour like? What was that being on back on the road properly for a tour? What was that? Was that hard to adjust to again, or was it natural to you?
Well, it is very hard to adjust to because it's not normal to be to
Yeah,
be
yeah,
like
yeah, totally.
in a basically a moving caravan for with like how many people on it? Were there 15 people on it? I can't remember. There was two tour buses. We were sharing with Violence, Artillery and Whiplash shared the other one, and then a couple of the production guys were on that as well. But yeah, it's great fun. I mean, and the great guys on that. I think we made some new friends on that tour. It was like that everybody seemed to muck in and like really get down to like helping each other out, and it was a great tour. It was a great great 10 days really. So and the Violence guys were great. We had a really good time with those guys, and they're quite funny. They're very funny people. So it was entertaining.
I know you did Bloodstock in, was it 2019?
I think so. Yeah.
Bloodstock 2019. Was that the biggest show you've done since the comeback? That
No,
stuff.
no. I'm trying to think what would be the biggest. Obviously the biggest one we've done was probably we did Hellfest. up to then, maybe I think before then we played at Alcatraz Festival in Belgium. That was a pretty big gig. I felt like Live Aid that gig. It was amazing. Uh,
Yeah,
and but Bloodstock's like, we've played Bloodstock quite a few times in the Sofa tent, and everyone knows everyone there, and
yeah,
it's just like a really sort of good vibe, and it's a really great festival, I think, because it's that right size that you can, it's not super huge or anything. It's not like Download that's like just
yeah,
massive, or Hellfest. Like the first time I've been to Hellfest, and it's a really great festival, but it's huge. It's just like gargantuan. It's just loads of
yeah.
people.
Is Hellfest bigger than Download then?
I, I don't know because I'm not sure. It feels like it is. It's
Yeah.
more of a sprawl. Um, and but they really go to town on Hellfest. What I was impressed with the sort of theming. They've got these sculptures everywhere and like these trees that start spitting fire and shit, and it's just it's mental. They really go to town on all that stuff because I think they own the ground. The
All
festival people,
right.
but so it doesn't come down. A lot of that stuff stays there. That's why
Wow.
they've got like this big Lemmy statue, and they just leave stuff there, and
Yeah.
obviously the stages come down, I think. But so yeah, if you get the chance, it's definitely worth the trip.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
When we played it, it was horrendously hot. It was like the hottest day of the year by far. It was like I can't remember what the temperature was. It was like almost 40 degrees or something, and we were in this tent, and it was just
God.
honestly, it was horrendous. In that respect.
Yeah.
But the gig was great.
What sort of next after, you do a few more gigs? Are we looking at another album, a full sprawl tour?
Um, yeah, well, the sort of gig lineup and things that we've got lined up is in our agent's hands. So we're kind of like we're on it saying, what's we got lined up for this, and I think there's an element of like we like doing festivals, and there's a load of them at the minute, obviously in Europe. So we'd like to try and get on a few of those, but I think there's still a backlog from COVID. People have things are booked up and stuff. So, but I'm hoping there's a few spots gonna materialize. And if not, then yeah, I think we'll later on in the year in the summer. I think we'll sort out some proper UK dates. Um, it's still to be decided yet. We want to get these first ones out of the way. We're going back to Ireland in a few weeks to play the gig that we should have played in May. Because when we got to Dublin in last time we were there, and we had a calamity with the van. We couldn't open the van door. It was a real Spinal Tap moment. We were at the gig and we couldn't open the door, and so we couldn't play the gig.
Oh,
It was
God.
like we had the RAC out and everyone. We had pickaxes trying to bend the door on this van. So if you want a really secure van, buy a Nissan because like you can't get in them even if you got the key. So yeah, we're going back there to play that gig because of not because of COVID or anything, but because we couldn't get in the van. Which is great. Well, I mean, the Irish dates are always brilliant for us. We've always been historically really good. And then I think we're playing in Madrid. Actually, we're playing a small festival in Madrid in March, which that'll be good because Spain's quite good for us as well. We've only been out there a few times, and they really go for it. Their crowds are like a bit mental, which makes for a good
Yeah.
gig, Yeah, so there's stuff coming in and stuff trickling down, but no like concrete plans to go out and conquer the world just yet, as yet. Still early days.
On 7 words, what would you say is your favorite track?
I don't know actually. I think I need to play some of them live.
Yeah.
I think I like the last one. I like Anything But the Truth, actually. I like that song. And I like the title track, 7 words. And Everybody Loves You When You're Dead, which Everybody Loves You When You're Dead was a bit of a that was a when I wrote that riff and the music to it basically. I was a bit like, oh, I don't know if this fits. I don't know if it's a bit too, if it's Xentrix enough, you know what I mean? I was a bit like, oh, I don't know. And then when we did the demo for it, Jay put the lyrics on it, and it totally changed it for me. And I was like, oh no, this is great. This is a great song. It's got
Yeah.
like hook to it, and you know, so yeah, that's one of my. I think that's one of my favorites actually. It's a surprise sort of mid-pace, slower one.
The lineup's been different from, before, like the comeback, like the
Yeah.
80s to now. How's that changed the sound in the way you feel in the band from the old lineup making the first few albums to Bury the Pain and Seven Words?
I think probably not as much as you think, but I think the first album's very sort of we were very young. I mean, I think I was like 18 when I did that album, so like it's you kind of like just you're full of energy. The energy sort of comes across on that first record, I think. But you how you're inexperienced, and that also comes across as well, I think.
Yeah,
But it kind of works. It's kind of got that live vibe because we recorded that one live together, so in the same room. So it's got that kind of vibe to it. And now we've got like Jay in the band, and Chris Shy is playing bass. It's got a different. I think I'm probably driving it a bit more than I used to when in the back in the old days. So a lot of it's probably my fault. But we did make a conscious effort when we got Jay singing that he wanted to sound like Xentrix. He didn't want to sort of I mean, obviously he only had his own voice, so he only do so much. But he was like, right, I'm gonna keep it in that sort of like so that when people listen to it, they know what band it is. They don't think it's a totally different band, because we did that once when we did Scourge. We got a totally different singer with Simon, and it almost didn't work. It was a different band, really, if I'm honest. And so that's why I don't really class that album as a like to go with the older stuff. Scourge is one of those that really we wanted to do it as a different band, but Heavy Metal Records wanted to put it out as a Xentrix record. They wanted to put that name on it, so it was like, and we were just like, oh, okay, whatever. And we couldn't think of a different name anyway. So yeah, but it doesn't fit with the rest of the albums. I mean, and neither does Kin really. So I always say that when we did Bury the Pain, that was the album that I wanted to make after Through's Advantage, really. So those kind of fit together. So if you put Shattered Existence, Through's Advantage, Bury the Pain, and now Seven Words, those four albums kind of go together. The other sort of like the other stuff we did, kind of it's in there, but it doesn't sit as well as those in my mind anyway. That's my sort of vibe with it.
The artwork on the albums. I mean, you've definitely bridged it from the older stuff, especially not for Whose Advantage across to now. You've got that the I don't know. Do you have a name for the character, the guy on the cover?
Graham. He's called Graham actually. Mainly because on the Through's Advantage, he looks like Graham Bonnet in the I Surrender Rainbow video. But it's the artwork for the first album. The story that goes with that is so we had this. Our manager at the time got this. I think he was like some local art student who did the logo, and then he did this. We kind of told him that we wanted this. Describe what we wanted in the artwork and this shattered mirror thing, and he presented it to us, and I actually thought it was the rough. So I was like, "Oh, that'll be great. When you do the proper one, will it look like this?" And he was like, "What do you mean? That is the proper one." I was like, "Oh no, really?" And then at the time, Roadrunner were like, because they ran to really strict timelines, they were like, "Well, we haven't got time for anyone else to do any more artwork. It's got to be, it's got to go to print next week." They were like, and everybody was like, no, it's fine. It looks, it looks like other sort of thrash metal albums of the time, the quality of the artwork. So I was never really happy with the quality of that artwork. So when it came to doing Through's Advantage, I kind of made sure that we had, a higher quality. And at the time, it was like, it was pre-computer stuff, pre-Photoshop. So it was all that Through's Advantage is all hand done. It's all airbrush, and there's some pretty impressive detail on the hands. With the £50, the £20 notes, I think it is, isn't it? And it was quite impressive at the time. I always thought, and so when it came to doing the Bury the Pain, I got in contact with Dan Goldsworthy, and that again was through Andy Sneap, and because Dan had done the Hell album covers, and I was like, oh, this guy's really cool. So Andy hooked me up, and we had a chat with Dan, and Dan used to like the band, and so he was like, we had a conversation about artwork and how, he was like, what's your favorite album covers, and
yeah.
So we had this conversation, and I had this idea of the demons like in your brain, sort of like, and he just came up with this and was like, oh right, yeah, that's cool. And then it was actually him that said, why don't we make it the guy from Through's Advantage? I was like, oh right, okay. And then so he did it's the tie that's the giveaway for me,
Yeah.
So when it came that time to doing 7 words, that was like, it was like a given, right? We've got to put him back again. We're going to put Graham back in. So but this time the only thing you can do is something you can tell is the tie.
Yeah.
It's on the giveaway, because originally he did the rough, and he did him in like a suit in that with the gas mask and the suit, and it looked a bit strange to me. So I was like, what about if we put him in like, so have you seen like Terminator 1, when Kyle Reese has like got that jacket?
Yeah.
That's where the idea from that is. I was like, oh right, yeah. So yeah, but Dan's great, and his artwork's brilliant, and he's a pleasure to like, whenever he sends me something, I'm always excited to open and see what he's done. It's great.
What are your musical influences? Like, what sort of drove you to make music, and what's the driving force behind it? What was that thing when you were younger that made you want to write music?
I was kind of like I've got like a rock and then a metal background. So I started off listening to, when I was like 12, listening to like Rainbow, and then it just progressed. I just wanted something heavier. So I think I went from Rainbow to like probably Maiden, then Maiden onto like Motorhead, and then Motorhead onto, and it just Venom, I think. And then it just kept on like just wanting that extra bit of like distortion and speed, and but I've always got that metal background, so like and I always say that, and I think you can hear it in Xentrix. We're a thrash metal band with the emphasis on metal. We're like we've got like an old school new ever British heavy metal background, an influence. The Judas Priest, the Iron Maiden, you can hear it in the guitar harmonies and everything. And I don't, I'm happy with that. I'm happy that people, if people think that, that's me. That's what I love. You know what I mean? I'm kind of a heavy metal guy, really. So I pretty much like most stuff that's got guitars in it, really. I'm not really that much of a musical bigot. Like
Yeah. Well, thank you, mate, for this interview. It's been
no problem.
Yeah.
Well, come and say hello when at Derby, and we'll have a beer.
Totally. Yeah, I'll come through. Right. I'll see you later.
All right. Thanks for your time.
Cheers. Thanks.
Ta-da.